أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الملائكة يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل بارك ولسانه وشفاءه وسكينه وولاد أبرارا وجعلني عند قبر نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مستقر قرار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم وبصم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز الشان كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يذل من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدله وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينته نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة الوثقى فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم صلوات محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. The verses that I recited for you today in this Friday sermon, as we are in the last few days of the month of Rajab al-Murajjab, and one of the events that is associated towards the end that took place 27th of Rajab is the event of the Bi'athat of the Holy Prophet. That on this day, prior to, of course, the migration, this is 23 years before the wafat of Rasulullah, when he had reached the age of 40, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the first revelation to the Holy Prophet. Thus, he became Mab'uth bi Risalat. Prophet was sitting on the mouth of cave of Hira and reminiscing about his childhood, his youth years, and the adulthood. He was thinking about the social status of Mecca, idol worshipping, moral vices, poverty of the needy and the deprived, which would not align with his faith and his intellect. He wanted to solve the problems of the society that he had lived in all his life. Using his experience during his travels, he came to one conclusion, that only God is our guide. Prophet was 40 years old. All these worries led him to spend majority of his time in seclusion outside of Mecca, in the place of Hira, where he would spend contemplating and worshiping that God might put an end to the whirlpool of calamities. He would spend the months of Rajab, Shaban, and Ramadan in the cave of Hira worshiping. It was the night of 27th of Rajab, when Prophet was deep into contemplation and supplication, that he heard a voice which said to him, Iqra. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord, the one who created you. Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. Read, and your Lord is all most generous. And then the one who created you from a clinging mass, and up till the last ayah. Prophet read whatever the angel of revelation asked him to read. When he left the cave, he could feel the weight of this added responsibility that had been placed on his shoulders. Not that he wasn't ready for it. We deny all the claims that Prophet was caught off guard. No. He was Prophet from the very beginning. It's just the beginning of the Risalat of the Holy Prophet. That now the mission, the prophetic mission, is something which is starting. But all along, he was Muwahid and he was Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you face this for the first time and you receive these revelations, and when this revelation comes down to you, but the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began the prophetic mission, and for the next 23 years, he kept on revealing these ayat for the Prophet. And the way the Prophet placed all these ayat in Quran suggests to us that Rasulullah had the prior knowledge of these ayat. Because even some ayat of Quran suggest that whenever the ayat was revealed, Prophet would start reciting it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La tuharrik. Don't move your tongue to recite and complete the ayah. For example, all of you have heard Surah Yasin many a time. If I was to recite some of the verses of Surah Yasin, many of you would be able to complete the ayah or recite before I even begin reciting. Why? Merely because you know it. You've heard it so many times. You never sat down and memorized it, but you know this anyway. And of course, those ayat which you have memorized, you would start speaking as I indicate towards us. Similar phenomena would happen when Rasulullah would be sent a revelation, he would start reciting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, La tuharrik bihi lisan. Don't move your tongue, meaning don't read the ayat before it is entirely revealed unto you. So with that in mind, Rasulullah had the prior knowledge of Quran because the instantaneous or all at once revelation of Quran had taken place on the heart of the Holy Prophet. This is the beginning of the gradual revelation of the Quran. As the events unfolded, the ayat one after another were revealed to the Holy Prophet. So with that acceptance, with that understanding, yes, even though Rasulullah comes down with a heavy heart, he comes down with heavy shoulders, now there's this mission upon his shoulder that could happen to anyone, and Rasulullah would feel some pressure in delivering this message. How am I going to go ahead? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has bestowed upon me, all these idol worshippers are against this. So therefore there's this pressure upon him. How am I going to tackle my own family and respond to and reply to them? Because they are the heads of the idol worshipping in Makkah. All these Abus that existed, the Abu Jahals and the Abu Lahabs and the Abu Sufyans and whatnot. How am I going to? So these are all the worries that Rasulullah had. But the bigger worry was, how do I bring this society from the brink of, annihilation and bring them back to the light? And for that, Rasulullah he was given this task. Now, when we look at the task of Rasulullah, what he wanted to accomplish at the end of his life, when the ayat was revealed from Surah Ma'idah, Al-Yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today is the day when I have perfected your religion for you. Meaning what? That everything Allah wanted to send was sent. Nothing more was needed to be sent as far as the communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned. The book is completed. The ni'mat are perfected. The religion has been chosen. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. And I'm satisfied with this religion for you. But then when we see that Rasulullah leaves this world, the society gradually goes back to Zaman Jahiliyyah, the ignorant era. Can you compare the society which Rasulullah has brought to the peak where Quran says, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum? Now within a few years, the descent to the extent where nobody is safe. And so therefore, those promises that Quran is making, that we will make this religion zahir upon everyone. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ. It will be prevailing over all the religions, even though those who are the polytheists, they will be averse to it. Has that promise been established yet since the demise of Rasulullah? This is where I wanted to draw a connection. The connection between the zuhur of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif and the bi'that of the Holy Prophet. Mab'ath of Rasulullah taking place on 27th of Rajab and the zuhur of Imam Zamana, which inshallah will take place, the connection between the two. Narration suggests that the government of Imam will complete all of those goals of Islam which remained incomplete due to various reasons. It will implement all those rules and regulations which were abandoned, and majority of the people of the world will become monotheistic, which is not the case today. It is an ultimate goal of Allah to provide guidance to all mankind, and it was evident under the number of prophets that he had sent for this purpose. As the prophets came, they brought people to the fold of following one God, and then when they left, people went back to their own ways. This phenomena of prophets came to an end when 27th of Rajab, Rasulullah receives the first revelation on the 40th year of the elephant. When Prophet was given this risalat for the next 23 years, what did Prophet do? يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. That he would recite the ayat, that he would purify the mankind, they would teach them the book, and would also share with them hikmat and the wisdom. But it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough time for him to complete this complete iblagh. The revelation of the verse Al-Yawm was there to highlight the fact that from Allah's end, everything has been completed. But is it the same case from the aspect of the people who were the recipient of all of this? Infallible Imams were constantly under siege, although Rasulullah had announced the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib on the event of Ghadir. But infallible Imams were constantly under siege and oppressed by the tyrant rulers that they couldn't accomplish this task to its fullest extent. Question arises, who will then achieve the ultimate goal of Allah? Narration suggests that our Imam of our time, Imam al-Zamana, is going to fulfill that unfinished business. He is the completer of the prosperity for which Prophet was raised. Mahdawiyyat and Bi'that are inevitably tied to that. You can connect Mahdawiyyat of Imam Zamana and the Bi'that of Rasulullah, and you can put them in the same line. The unfinished goals of Islam, he said, what is he referring to? What are the unfinished goals of Islam? Elimination of ignorance and establishment of servitude. Rasulullah said, Ala kullu shay'in min amr al-jahiliyyati tahta qadamay mawdu. This is the claim that Rasulullah made, and it was true at that time. Let it be known that I have squashed all the beliefs and the rituals of the ignorant era beneath my feet. All that existed, idol worshipping and the rituals that existed before Islam, I have squashed every single one of them under my feet. The ignorant era was engulfed in a collection of wrong rituals intellectually, and its lifestyle. Prophet spent his entire life eradicating those methods into the path of prosperity, converted the idol worshipping to worshipping of one God. In other words, he gave soul to the lifeless body of that zamane jahiliyyat. But unfortunately, after his demise, people returned to the values of jahiliyyah, and it's continuing until today, with the difference that it transformed from jahil tradition to a modern lifestyle. Back then it was called jahil tradition, now it's called modernism. And someone beautifully responded when they saw a woman covered wearing hijab and said, this is backwardness. This lady is backward. Why? Islam is oppressing her and she's backward because she's covered from top to bottom. A lady responded by saying, I forgot who said this. She said, no, the more I'm covered, the more progressive and modern I am. The less I'm covered, the more regressive and the old age and the stone age that I represent. Because when insan was first created, they didn't have any libas. They were using the leaves to cover themselves and cover their private parts. As the human society progressed, they understood that they need to cover themselves from the onlooker's eyes. Hence, when I'm covered from top to bottom, this is not only modesty, but it is the most progressive a person could be. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the society went back to the Jahili traditions then, which now then refers to the modern lifestyle. Akhlaq and purification. So that was the first goal, to eradicate the eradicate the ignorance of the ignorant era and the establishment of servitude, ubudiyat. Number two, akhlaq and purification. That was also lacking in that society, and I think something which needs in every society. Religion of Islam is the religion of purification. Prophet explained this as one of the prime reasons for his bi'that when he said, "Innama bu'ithtu liutammima makarim al-akhlaq." And as if he's saying that there's no other goal in my eyes except to what? Purify mankind. To perfect the akhlaq and the ethics and morality. And therefore, another tradition we find from our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. When someone questioned Imam, what is makarim al-akhlaq? We always hear Rasulullah say, "Innama bu'ithtu liutammima makarim al-akhlaq," that I was raised to, perfect these akhlaq, these makarim al-akhlaq that is being referred to. Then Imam explains this hadith in Al-Kafi from sixth Imam, who said, "Inna Allah azza wa jalla khassa rusulahu bi makarim al-akhlaq." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose his prophet for this makarim al-akhlaq. Famtahanu anfusakum. Now test your nufus, your souls. فَإِنْ كَانَتْ فِيكُمْ, if this was in you, فَحْمِدُوا لِلَّهِ, then praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ خَيْرٍ, and know that this is the best that you could have. وَإِلَّا تَكُنْ فِيكُمْ فَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ وَارْغَبُوا. If it's not in you, then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to impart this knowledge into you. Then Imam said, what are these things? فَإِنْ ذَكَرَهَا أَشْرَةً. He said these are 10 things that are referred to as makarimul akhlaq. He said al-yaqeen, wal-qana'a, wal-sabr, wal-shukr, wal-hilm, wa-husnul khulq, wal-sakha, wal-ghayra, wal-shaja'a, wal-muru'ah. These are the 10 attributes that are referred to as makarim al-akhlaq. And when Rasulullah said, "Innama bu'ithtu liutammima makarim al-akhlaq," he came to perfect all of these values of akhlaq and these traits of akhlaq. Number 1 is yaqeen, the certainty. Number 2 is qana'at, the contentment. Number 3 is sabr, the patience. Number 4 is being grateful. Number 5 is forbearance. Number 6 is good character. Number 7 is generosity. Number 8 is zeal and your ghayrat. Number 8 is shaja'at and the valor. And number 10 is al-muru'ah, which is the sense of honor that every individual should have. These are the makarim al-akhlaq for which Rasulullah was raised, and he came to perfect mankind. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So narration suggests, as we are trying to draw a parallel between Mahdaviyyat of Imam Zamana and the Ba'that of the Holy Prophet, they suggest that during the government of Imam Mahdi, the goals of Islam which will reach realization, majority of the people will become monotheist under the flag. On the other hand, world economy will shape in a way that no one will remain poor or in need. And that is the realization of justice that we all hope for it to happen. Today, that is not the case. It's very lopsided. You find a great number of people who are in need and who are suffering and struggling, while you find there are only a few handful elites who control the entire economy of the world, and that will be something which will come to an end. These are all the signs of the return of Imam. Since the Islamic society didn't achieve this completely, it is inevitable that this feat will be accomplished with the reappearance of our Imam. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not leave it hanging like this. Number 3 is the unity of the Islamic society. All of these things are present in front of you. That all of these things also suggest that there is Masjid-e-Ali Muhammad who will come one day to go ahead and bring us all together. It says in Surah Baqarah 213, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ. Mankind were a single community. Then Allah sent the prophets as bearers of good news and those who would warn people. And he sent down with them book with the truth, and it made judge between the people concerning that about which they differed. So yes, there was always differences of opinion that existed, but as soon as the wujud of the prophet was there amongst the people, Allah would send his messenger. What would he do? He would bring people together, collectively forming this one ummah, and that was the case in the time of the Holy Prophet as well. But you see, after Rasulullah leaves this world, how much tafriqah that has taken place, so many different sects that have come into existence. That dream also has to come back to reality. Thus, it will take place once the Imam of our time reappears. And lastly, completing the mab'ath. Rasulullah was chosen for bi'that. He began the bi'that process, but Imam Zamana will complete this mab'ath, the religion which was revealed unto Prophet, who propagated by him without any fault. Because Rasul is ma'soom anil khata, masoon anil khata. He propagated without adding anything from himself. Why Quran says, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He doesn't utter anything on his own. He doesn't do anything on his own. Allah takes the responsibility of the words of the Rasulullah, and he takes the responsibility of the actions of Rasulullah as well. When he says, مَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَىٰ. Oh Prophet, you weren't throwing those pebbles. It was we who were throwing those pebbles. Meaning the word of Rasul is word of Allah. Meaning the action of Rasul is the action of Allah. So if Rasulullah raises Ali Ali into his hands and he says, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla, then let it be known the words are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the action is the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the completion of this mab'ath, and I bring you to a close, that while Muslims couldn't keep up with the requirements to protect it, on the other hand, Islam is the last religion to be sent to complete other religions. If this deen itself remains incomplete, then the ultimate goal of Allah will be under question. Therefore, there should be someone who fulfills this promise, and that'll again happen once Imam Zamana reappears. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability that if anything is spent from our money, if any word is uttered from our tongues, if any action is performed through our hands, it is in the direction to pave the path for the reappearance of Imam of our time. Inna ahsan al-hadith wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضبا وبسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وفان السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفا نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف على العباد بجوده والعباد المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين. ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا لصفيه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادم أبنة الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آباء الكرام اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أحل ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أحل بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائمة قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بجاه محمد وآله الأطهار الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر ربنا أفرغ علينا الصبر وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين بجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين الله أكبر
سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على
تسبيح جناب فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لولينا الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Mubarak, inshallah, let's recognize the sponsors for today's Jumu'ah lunch. It is the family of Mr. Tawseef Ali Bawa and Sister Noor Al Mu'alla. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for their deceased relatives as well as yours, including Hussain Ali, Rajab Ali Sahirbala, Sultan Ali, Bahadur Ali Pir Bhai, Zahra bint Fazil, Khadija bint Qasim, Mustafa Hussain Ali Sahirbala, Tahira Banu, Bahadur Ali Pir Bhai. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Inshallah, the programs this weekend, tomorrow, being the night of the Shahad, 7th Imam, Musa al-Qadim, alayhi salatu wassalam. And Sunday will be the night of the Wafat of President Muhammad, Musa Islam, alayhi salatu wassalam. Inshallah, combining the two, we will have majlis to commemorate the Shahad. Tomorrow, Saturday, February 26th, program will start with Salat al-Maghrib at 6 p.m. Inshallah, Mahmoud will roll out, I believe so. So inshallah, make sure that you attend this program. Majlis al-Azhar will begin with Maghrib Salat, followed by Salat al-Masjid, inshallah, the Majlis. That will be on Saturday. Sunday, there isn't any program here. But inshallah, on Monday night, February 28th, we will be celebrating Eid al-Mab'ath and Laylatul Mi'raj, which consists of the Amal and Egyptian celebrations. So be sure that you attend. It's a weekday. Monday night, we will start the program sharp at 6:05 with Salat al-Maghrib, followed by the Egyptian and inshallah the Amal of the night of Mab'ath and the night of Mi'raj. Do take part in all of these programs, which are in the last few days of the month of Rajab, as we bid farewell to this holy month. At the end, let's recite dua salat for all of those people who are in need of dua, those who are suffering and struggling, going through a difficult time. Presently, request for our own brother Muhammad Abbas Rizvi, who's in hospital for the past few days. Keep him in mind as well. Let's recite this ayat from Surah Al-Mulk together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amma yujibul mustarrina da'ahu yakshu. 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء يحكم خلفاء اللهم الله قليلا ما تذكرون. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا من الرجوع لكل خير وآمن وشفته عند كل شر يا من يعطي الكثير بالقليل يا من يعطي من سأل يا من يعطي من لم يسأله ومن لم يعرفه فأنما منه ورحمة أعطني بمثله إياه جميع خير الدنيا وجميع خير الآخرة واصرف عني بمثلتي جميع شر الدنيا وشر الآخرة فإنه غير من توسع عليك وزدني من فضلك يا كريم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا ذا النعماء والجود يا ذا المن والطول أرم شيفتي على النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين
اللهم صل على محمد
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Nabiyullah ya Rasulullah ya Safadullah ya Aminullah ya Hujjatullah ya Islamullah. Assalamu ala Rasulullah Sayyid al-Mursaleen Muhammadin Sayyid al-Awwaleen Muhammadin Sayyid al-Akhirin Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad as-salama salata ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Assalamu alaikum ya Amir al-Mu'minin ya Qasim al-Jannat al-Fatah. Assalamu alaikum ya Sayyid al-Alamin. Assalamu alaikum ya Ahl al-Bayt al-Nubuwwah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Mawla ya Musa ibn Ja'far wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ashhadu an la Imam al-Hadi wal Wali al-Murshid wa annaka mu'adid al-tanzil wa sahib al-ta'wil wa hamil al-Tawrat wal Injil wal alim al-adil wa sadiq al-amil ya Mawla ya nabru ila Allah من أدائك وتقرب إلى الله بمولاتك وصلى الله عليك وعلى أبائك وإدادك وابنائك وشيعتك ومحبيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم صاحب الأسر الزمان يا خليفة الرحمن يا إمام الإنس والجان يا قامة الإيمان. السلام عليكم تفسير القرآن. السلام عليكم شريك القرآن. السلام عليكم إمام إمامنا جل الله وعلا وصلى الله عليه وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر نعرة رسالة يا رسول الله يا